Hello and welcome to the new Anything and Everything podcast with myself, Ewan Davis, and my friend Sean Webley. In this new podcast series, we'll be tackling a range of subjects from the coronavirus, Area 51, and the secrecy of North Korea. So let's get started.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that actually. I'm sure you've seen today with the anti-lockdown protests in the UK and in America. Well, not anti-lockdown, but they're just, grouping together, which is obviously just going to increase the rate of infections.
I just think that the people that are doing that are stupid, moronic, idiots, and just prats. I just don't understand, what's their thought? Because they did not realise that by them doing that, they're going to put themselves at risk of catching the virus. I just don't understand where's their logic. That's what I just don't get, really, to be honest. And for Americans, it doesn't surprise me. They're all about freedom, liberty, and rights, but they don't seem to realise that for freedom, you have to. If you follow the rules of lockdown, you might have freedom afterwards. But if you think, we've got to have freedom now and we've got to go out and do our thing, what if you catch the virus? You die. If you follow the lockdown, you're a lot more likely to come out of it alive. So just use your brain.
Obviously, moving on from that, I just wanted to ask you about what you think of this R8. R8, sorry.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw it, I was like, "What's this R8 about?" I thought maybe like it's some rape, like death or something. But when I found out what it was, which is now, I think it's gone below 1, isn't it? I know it's increasing right now, but I did read somewhere it was like 2.5 back in March, I do believe.
Yeah, well, I heard it was between 2.5 and 3, which is not good. It's terrible. I don't know.
So it's just really high, which obviously it's dropped a lot since then, but I think it's around the point now where it's a bit risky. It's risky to see. Oh, it's around 1, maybe underneath. Maybe we should just lift the lockdown. Because surely, if you lift the lockdown, it's going to go back up, which is what it's doing now. So, I just think in terms of lockdown, I think it's too early. I think Wales, Scotland, and Ireland are being sensible about it. England, for me, Boris has made the decision to encourage people to go back to work if they can. Unlimited exercise, travelling to places to go exercising. I do not believe that's the right decision, though. Because people will take that a mile. They'll go, oh, we can drive somewhere now. They're going to drive far away. They're going to do more exercise with more people. They're just going to take it way too far, I do believe.
It's the wording of his what's it called, the briefing. It was the wording of it I didn't like. It was the unlimited exercise. I just didn't like that.
No, I don't agree with that. So, no. Whereas, like here in Wales, they're saying you can do more than one exercise, but they're not saying unlimited. It's like, oh, let's go to the beach. Let's go on the beach for hours. Let's go to the beach every day. Let's meet up with people. Because British people will just be like that. Because I just know, even like when they said about the lockdown, people were still ignoring it. So if you're gonna say you can go and do stuff, it's just I can see it going back up the death toll. I can see possibly going back up in England. I'm just glad that Wales, Scotland, and Ireland.
I was actually surprised that the last few days the death rate has stayed below 500. I thought, because there was that one day a couple of days ago where it went above 500, went to like 640 something, 600 something. So
600 something, I think. Yeah.
It's just the mindset of British people is just ridiculous, egotistical people.
They don't seem to realise it's not the consequences on them. It's the consequences of their actions on other people as well. If they're going out, I'll just nip to the shop to buy a TV. It's just unnecessary. If you need to go to the shop, fair enough, but don't be going to the shop or don't be going places you don't need to go, because there's likely to be people there, and there's a good chance that obviously when you say like yourself, like one person, it's just one person. There's thousands of other people saying it's just me, and then it builds up. It's like I'm going to go to the mountains now. That's one person. 500 people say that, and they're thinking, I was only thinking that, but it just builds up because there's so many people eventually. So I think you're thinking, oh, it's okay that I'm doing it, but all of a sudden, like thousands of people are thinking the same thing, and it just builds up to something that's not good. And that's what I've seen so far. Like in parks, people like in big groups of 10. I just don't understand what their mindset is.
In
right
England,
now,
what is the number of people you're allowed to see? Is it just one, or is it more than one?
I think I'm not actually sure, because obviously Boris's speech was about as clear as blood cloud, but it just wasn't clear.
What was that?
It just wasn't clear. I don't know why I say cloud. It just wasn't clear to me. It was like, stay alert. Just keep the same one. Why would you encourage people to go to work? That's going to encourage more people on the trams, more cars, more people walking. I just don't. I know he's thinking about the economy, but
is that the ultimate
for me, the word
goal
so important.
that the Prime Minister that Trump is thinking about is the economic impacts? Do you think?
Well, I'm sure they care about the lives as well. I mean, I don't doubt that at all. But obviously, as like right wing politicians, they're gonna the economy will be on their mind a lot as well. But I just believe that they're possibly thinking too much about that, and they need to be thinking more about the actual lives themselves. Because yeah, the economy is important for people, but lives are more important, frankly. So I just think they're getting it wrong. Trump's getting it wrong. I think the way Trump's been, I've been a good. I think Trump's done well in the stuff that he's done before this virus, but since the virus, he carried this this. I'm like the brutal. He seems to be acting like he thinks he's still at like a rally against
Well,
like
it's the
Hillary.
re-election year, isn't it?
And I think that's the wrong approach. He's picking. He's picking fights with people. It's like it's not the right time to be doing that. He needs to have a plan, have good leadership, and he's shown none of that so far. And look at the death toll; it's like 80. It's in the 80,000s now. The virus is like 1.5 million, I think. I haven't checked for a while, but it's like, oh well, that's no surprise because of the way Trump's been ruining it. And literally, the people, especially in the South America, they will take Trump's every word. Like I've heard about the bleach, people actually trying to drink it. Now I know Trump should have said it, and if he was joking, which maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I hope he was.
I don't think he was.
It's not the time to think about it. And the fact that people are carrying on, actually taking his word for it, just sums up their brains, to be honest. But I think the way what Trump says has a massive impact on people's actions, especially in like the South America, like Florida, because that's where Trump got most elected, like the votes. So wording's very important. I think
the fact that you said that because you're a staunch Trump supporter, as I'm sure everyone will learn to love.
I think I don't absolutely love him. I've said like before, he's done some questionable things, but he's delivered on his promises, which you can't really argue about because like if you deliver on your promises, then that's pretty good in my opinion. Obviously, if you don't agree with them, then you're going to be a bit annoyed, but it is what it is. You can't win all the time.
So on the topic of Trump, he actually tweeted today about how he thinks America have responded to the coronavirus. I'm going to read it to you now.
Okay.
We've done a great job on COVID response, making all governors look good, some fantastic, in brackets, and that's okay. But the lamestream media, doesn't want to go with that narrative, and the do-nothing Dems talking point is to say only bad about Trump. I made everybody look good, but me. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not. I know that people are a bit like, oh, why is Trump, who says the president of America and 73, I think, 74, 73, on Twitter? But I don't actually mind that because I think it has like good interaction with people. But what he says is a bit like lamestream media. I mean, it's not. I don't think just because you're the president, you have to act like in like an absolute like down the line of presidents. Like you have to be 100% professional and all that. I think you can like, have. I don't think you have to act in the way that is expected to act when you're the president, if that makes any sense. I think you should act in the way you're supposed to be when you're president in a lot of things, but not everything. And I think continuing to go on about the mainstream media again is not what America needs him to be talking about. He just got his priorities wrong.
It's point scoring, isn't it? It's political point scoring. He's doing everything he can.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
doing everything he can to sway the voters in his favour.
I honestly, I thought, well, after the collusion with Russia, the point that they were talking about there, and he got cleared of it, I thought, oh, the Democrats have been pushing for that for 2 years, and now they've found nothing. So I thought Trump's going to get re-elected. But I think a lot of Americans will see now the way he's been in this pandemic will make them question maybe giving their vote to him, because the way he's acted in this pandemic has been shocking. So I don't think he's doing himself any favors, that's for sure.
Well, I think that social media is a great indicator of how well or how badly in some cases somebody is treated. If you just go on Trump's Twitter and you just scroll through the comments, it's just hate upon hate.
Towards Trump?
I've never seen it. Yeah, towards Trump.
Yeah. I just don't understand. Well, I'd be surprised if he writes it, to be honest. But I just don't think he's definitely not doing himself any favors, as I said. Well, I know America has got a lot of testing facilities. They've been testing a lot of people, but to see the total of like cases and then see the deaths, I just think, would America be at the number one country in the world for this virus if Trump was leading? And I don't think they would, to be honest.
Rhetorical question there. Nobody knows the answer to that.
Yeah, because look at China. China's huge. China's got the biggest population in the world. They only got about 80,000 cases.
Are they
Because they got on top of it, they shut it down straight away.
Are they over it now, or are they still suffering?
I know they're getting a few cases every day, but it's virtually nothing because, as I said, they got on top of it. They shut millions of people in lockdown, and now you can see I think they've come out of it. Wuhan, where it started, to come out of it. But I do know a city had another outbreak, I do believe. But no, it's just Trump. I know Trump's not. Don't think Trump actually thinks lockdown should be happening, to be honest, because he just seems to be like, oh, it's freedom, liberty, and all this. I just think, he's definitely thinking about the economy a lot, which is good because you should, but he's thinking about it too much. And the priorities are a bit like that. So.
And I think I read somewhere today that by the 1st of June, 100,000 people would have died because of the coronavirus in America.
In America?
Yeah, just in America. So I don't know what they're on now. I think they're on like 80,000 or 85,000.
Something like that. They're in the 80s, I think. But back onto the UK, what do you think that we should have done better at the start? What do you think that we should have done better during the start of the virus to now to prevent further loss of life and further cases being diagnosed?
Well, I think we went into lockdown too late. I think we knew about it early March. Not what was gonna happen, but we knew that it was a big threat. We just didn't act on it.
Yeah.
It's similar to America, isn't it? Like, I don't know. I think they went into lockdown really, really late. Like really late.
I'm not sure they went into I think a lot of countries went into lockdown in March, but I remember they were saying they showed Italy's death toll and the virus number, the cases as well, and they said this is what we're going to look like in 4 weeks. And I don't think they. And we got to the point of what Italy was looking like 4 weeks later or something, and I'm not sure we even locked down then because the numbers were pretty high before we locked down. I think if you know there's going to be an imminent threat, lock everything down before it can get too big, and we just didn't do that, and now 35,000 people have died. I just think we just didn't prepare for it because it was going to happen. A pandemic was going to happen eventually. So.
Well, so if you were in charge, you're the prime minister, right? What would you have done differently?
I would have definitely put the country into lockdown as soon as I knew there was a threat. To prevent obviously a lot the loss of life that's on the scale of what we've got. I would definitely put tougher measures in for lockdown. I think saying you can only exercise once a day. Exercise is important, but people are not going to follow that. Let's be honest. Stuff staying open. I think there should be some sort of like big punishment put in place if you're seen out of the streets. But also, I know in Spain, I was watching a video and this one person said that if you went outside for no good reason, you would be prosecuted like straight away. I'm thinking, well, why have we not got loads of police on the street to act as a deterrent against people that are out for no good reason? And we just didn't have that, and people were just like, whatever, it is what it is. Let's just go out.
I think I read that the fine is £100, but they're not actually allowed to enforce it, are they? They're not allowed to enforce the social distancing. That's what I think. I read that.
I thought they passed. I know they passed something in the Commons in March, but I think just enforce it anyway. I mean, I know it probably has to be a law, but an emergency, surely you can just trigger an emergency law or something, which says that if you're out for whatever reason, then just get prosecuted straight away.
So, I want to go back to the 3-point plan, the mystical, the really unclear 3-point plan. So,
is this for Wales or England?
For England, let's just
okay.
Basically, the plan in Wales is very similar, in my opinion, to the plan for England. I may be wrong.
Okay.
You can correct me on that. But
I don't know. Carry on.
But what do you make of the 3-point plan? So the idea is that children will be going back into school on the 1st of June, and then the 1st of July is certain restaurants back opening again. Do you think the numbers will be low enough for that to happen?
So I guess the first we're on point one, are we? The first point we're on now, are we?
The step we're on step 1. So step 1 is easing lockdown, making people.
Step 2 is the kids going to school, and step 3 is the restaurants, hospitality stuff. I think, well, obviously it's not like definite that's going to happen. It's a lot of ifs and buts, isn't there? But I think sending kids back to school while there's still the virus going around, I think is stupid, to be honest, because I think they were saying about year 1s and year 6s, weren't they?
Yeah. Was that just year 1 and year 6, not 2, 3, 4, and 5?
I don't think so. But it's just sending your 6s back. I get that because they know what's going on. I'm sure they can have a grasp of what's going on. But year 1s can't. If they get told you have to stay away from your friends, there's not a chance in hell they're going to stay away from their friends, from like playing around, holding hands or whatever. They're not going to know they probably don't even know what social distancing means. So expecting children to follow rules like that is just unrealistic, in my opinion. But also, I think that the elderly teachers will fear as well, because they're thinking, well, kids coming from houses from everywhere, they could catch the virus, and obviously, as we know, the elderly are more likely to they're more vulnerable to the virus. But I just think setting out a plan, the 1st of June to me, it just seems really early. I don't think it'll happen, to be honest, because I know this. It's up to the schools, I think, because obviously a school can stay closed if they want to.
Well, our local school, well, the school near us, we're not going to say where we live, but that school, I don't think that'll open, because that one's quite a big one, isn't it?
No, I think, well, if a school wants to close, like if there's snow around or something at Christmas, they stay closed, don't they? But I think for the 1st of July, I just don't get that either, because I think for me the whole thing is about having a vaccine, and obviously we just can't stay in lockdown for like another year before a vaccine is created. If it is created, of course, it's not guaranteed, but we can't stay in lockdown for that long. I just can't see it happening. I think there'll still be measures in place, but for me, 1st of July for hospitality and restaurants and all that, they're gonna have to put some serious measures in place, like maybe like at the bar, just the handling of the drinks. I just think.
I mean, where we work, for example, if we're on the bar, we're serving drinks. There are people gathering around the bar. How are they going to stop that? Or are they going to stop that? Are they just not?
Yeah.
Are they just going to leave it and just say, can't do anything about it?
Well, I was thinking like maybe they could serve like in the beer. Because I was thinking maybe they could serve in the beer garden or something. Maybe not inside. I think because when you're serving behind the bar, first of all, you're like really quite close to each other, and they'll be breathing air, they'll be walking around, and then you'll be giving them. Actually, I'm sure they won't be doing money for a long time, but it probably be card payments only. But that's giving drinks over, handling stuff, and that's all day. And then what if you wipe your face? Wipe your face gently, wipe your eye, put the virus in your finger, goes into your eye, you get ill. I just think it's good to set out. It's good to set out an early plan, but it's a lot. It depends on a lot on like how people act, I think.
Yeah, well, we got to stress this conditional. The word they love to use is conditional. Is dependent on this, dependent on that. So, but
yeah, I think the minister Drake, what's his name, Mark Drakeford, I think saying that to keep the stay at home, save the NHS, save lives, stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives is good, because getting rid of the home part, we'll think, we can go out now, we can, I just don't think changing anything too soon is a good idea. I think if we see the rate of infection drop significantly to maybe like not even far from zero, then start easing stuff. But seeing like the rate of infection increasing now in the last day is kind of concerning, because you think, well, Boris made the speech and now it's going back up. So thinking, well, obviously that speech has had an impact. It's just, it's such an unprecedented thing. It's kind of hard to know exactly what should be done.
I mean, I can sit here all day and and moan about our government, but I don't envy their position, having to make that decision.
Not at all. But also, I think I know people complain like, oh, this is terrible, they're dreadful and all this, but they didn't sign. No politician signed up to have to handle a whole country in a pandemic. But going back to preparation for this pandemic, I think the whole world, especially after what happened about 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, they should have. Yeah, we can't predict. It's like a volcano. You can predict maybe when it's going to erupt, but you can't predict exactly when it's going to erupt. It's like with the pandemic. It's going to happen eventually. It just is, because that's just what happens. It's like ice ages. They happen every few thousand years. I think they should have prepared something, because it's going to happen eventually. So I think the fact that the world was not prepared at all, it's shown in the numbers of deaths and cases, etc.
So, because this isn't going to be over by winter unless some magical vaccine comes out. Will it be in winter time? Will that have a big effect on the numbers? Do you reckon? Will we have a spike again?
Well, I know, like generally in the winter, people. I can't remember the last time I wasn't ill in some way in the winter, but I think when people, especially with like Christmas shopping, that's going to be a real tough one, because shopping at Christmas is just nuts. But also, like, for example, Winter Wonderland, I can't see that being open. I think Christmas is going to look very different this year than what it has previously.
Yeah, it'll be a different world when we come out of this than when we went in. So
yeah, it'll be like an apocalyptic world. I do think like once everything goes back to normal, which it obviously will. Until a vaccine is found, I think we'll see like shops like configured in different ways. Only a few people are allowed in. Like when everything starts to reopen, it's going to look strange. But also, you have to take into consideration that not everyone's going to feel safe going out.
No, exactly, and
It's like, well.
Oh, go on.
Well, it's like, say if you've got like an older people working in shops, they're going to be very reluctant to go back to work after this, because they know that they're in the age category where they're more vulnerable to the virus. So I think maybe employment, a lot of people will be frightened to go back to work.
If anyone has underlying health conditions, if anyone has underlying health conditions, you're not going to want to go back to work, are you? Because you get it, you're screwed. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Also, I think seeing that, I know it's a very, very small amount of people that were under the age of 45, I think, that have died from the virus, like 400 people or something. I think.
But that's still a number, though. Like people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah, but that's.
I wasn't having a go at you. I was just saying.
I think when you've got people dying that, like for example, at our age, it's kind of like, and they haven't got health conditions. You think, wow, this virus is actually clearly quite like infectious, deadly, and all sorts. So I'm thinking, well, that could be me. I could go in the shop, pick up something, wipe my face, and I could be that person that's died from the virus with no underlying health conditions. So it's a very disturbing time, that's for sure.
And the virus could mutate, and if it mutates, it might.
It has
already.
It mutates. I know that I think they found 12 different types of it in the UK, but I know viruses constantly mutate all the time. So what if exactly? I was talking to my mum the other day about it. What if the virus mutates to a really, really strong one, which like the death rate is like much higher than, like, what is it now, like 0.7%? What if it goes much higher, and then we haven't got a vaccine for that? It's just, the virus is never fully going to go away, but it's very hard to know what's going to happen, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like, I know this is a sexually transmitted disease, but HIV, I mean, that's still around, isn't it? So
that came around in the 80s, didn't it? My nan was saying everyone was like really frightened because they thought, well, this is a new disease. I guess it's kind of like that in a way. It's very frightening knowing that this disease is like isn't well known at all, and knowing that you're not like immune to it. So it definitely makes you have your wits about you more.
Well, I want to ask you a question about how you think the media have portrayed the virus and the lockdown itself. So when Boris's plan came out last Monday, was it Monday, Tuesday? The newspapers were rife with, hurrah, we're free, lockdown's over. People are going to read that, they're going to think it's over. But it's not, is it?
It's the media, isn't it? Especially like tabloids.
The Red Cross, the Sun.
The Sun. I've literally never read that in my life,
No.
apart from a certain page. No, it's just like it's all about like wording and language, because people are gonna be like, oh, we're free. Well, no, we're not free.
It appeals to the sensationalist generation, doesn't it? But
yeah, it's like, well, you're not free. You're just allowed to go out more than once a day. You're allowed to travel. You can go to work if you need to, or you're encouraged to go to work, which I just don't understand. But it's just like, oh, why are we doing this now? I just think the UK's the fact that we've got the highest death toll in Europe says a lot, and also with the PPE equipment as well for like nurses and doctors. Where the hell's that gone? Well, where is it? It hasn't even arrived yet. So many people have died from it because they haven't had protective equipment on. I just think, why is it taking so long? Because I'm sure there's plenty there, but it just hasn't arrived yet from wherever it's come from. Bloody Spain.
yeah, and I was reading an article in The Guardian, I think, and the headline, I've actually got it here, the headline, lack of PPE killed care home nurse who died of coronavirus, says her son. So
yeah, and also the care home thing. It's unsurprising to see how many people have died in care homes, because obviously, like, the elderly live there. But I think maybe people in care homes have to have protective equipment, because they're dealing with elderly people who are much more likely to have a much worse outcome from the virus than younger people. And the fact that some haven't got this equipment is shocking, frankly. It really is shocking.
I mean, they must have known about this, and they have the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. They must have known that this was coming. If they just look at the news, China, the infection was there. So how could they have not prepared for this?
I'm not sure, but I think, well, when, like, for example, like when the Ebola outbreak came around, that was generally in Africa, wasn't it? So when I first heard about this virus, I thought, it's just going to be one of those outbreaks just in China. It's just going to circle around for a little while. It's going to just go away. I never would have thought in a million years that we'd be in a situation with like nearly 5 million cases worldwide. It's just unbelievable. And I think maybe there was like a bit of complacency with our response to the virus, because I don't think anyone really expected it to get this bad.
No. And, obviously because of the difference with Ebola, though, was that this, despite it killing, a large amount of people that got infected with it, the transmission was very low, wasn't it? But this is the other way around. So
yeah.
The transmission is very high, but the death rate's quite low.
Yeah, it is really high. It's very infectious. But I know that with the previous, which was the first kind of, which was the first version of the virus, I do believe. I think, if I'm wrong, if I'm right, if I'm wrong, if I'm right. But I know it's only infected 8,000 people around the world and killed 774. So maybe, I'm not sure, maybe they thought, it's another version of this. It's not going to do that much harm, but wow, it's done so much harm. I never thought I'd see this in my lifetime. I was bound to happen eventually, but never thought I'd see something like this. Like, ask me back in November or before this outbreak started, would you be in lockdown at this point? I would have said, no, what are you on about? But it is what it is, yes. Because it's so surreal. Like not being able to like go near my nan, just have to like stand 2 meters away from her. Not being able to go play tennis, even though my toe's bad. But not being able to do like regular, mundane, boring, but kind of like fun things. It's really weird.
Who knows how long this could change our lives forever. We don't think about that,
Could. I think it'll have a profound impact for quite a while. Eventually, it's just going to go back to normal, I think, because it generally does. But I think for now, I know a lot of people will be suffering from this, because obviously it's easy to say, this lockdown's easy. It's just staying home. It's like being at home in the morning and then coming home all day. I know for a lot of people it'll be easy just staying home, finding stuff to do, but for a lot of people it's not. because it's like stuck indoors all day. Going from doing lots of stuff a day to doing nothing is not good for mental health at all. So I know a lot of people will be suffering from it, but if they can stay strong, then we'll get through it. I think, you should. Yeah, if you can give it a hand where you can, do that. But also you got to think about yourself as well, because just because you might be like 25 years old doesn't mean that you're not going to get the virus.
Exactly.
But
I think even I'm guilty of that.
Definitely got a lot of
like, I think even I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
Like, I have no underlying health conditions. I have no problems. People are bound to get complacent, aren't they? If someone like me, has no, I consider myself a healthy person. Obviously I'm not going to be worried about it. Obviously I am worried about it because you hear, loads of people getting it.
Well, as someone that has my heart condition, of course, that's a bit like, oof. Well, my breathing does decrease when that happens. So it's like, well, if my heart's palpitating, if I get the virus, will that affect it? Maybe. So I've definitely taken all the care I can when I'm going to shop, washing my hands, making sure I'm staying clear of people. Just doing what I can to make sure I don't catch the virus.
I'd like to move on to the impacts, not just of our lives, but businesses as well. Like, I don't know whether you've looked at the stocks recently, but stocks in Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, they're all down. People are losing their jobs. So
yeah. Well, the economy's gone down as well, isn't it? So, well, one thing I walked past Tesco garage. One of the garages near where I live. The petrol prices, I've always noticed them. They've gone up from like £1. Diesel's gone up from about £1.15 to 99p. I never thought I'd see such a dramatic drop in such a small time. So, yeah. I can believe it's not far from Power Rangers, Power League. but no, it's kind of I think it's kind of similar to what happened in 2008. Although I can't remember. I have no idea what happened when I was 6. But I know there's like a big fall in like the economy and stuff. But I think I know if you like have a business and you're not getting any income, like hairdressers, for example. I know someone that works in the hairdresser. They don't have to pay any rent, so that's good for them because they're not having to spend money without taking any in. But so that some businesses will have to pay like rent and stuff when they're not earning any money. So obviously their money's going to go down, which isn't good for them.
Yeah, and it's not just like small business owners. I mean, it's just if you work in an office, you could lose your job. You're furloughed now until God knows when.
October, I think it's been
extended to October. Yeah, but it's just I think people are understating the effects that this will have. So
yeah, well, the furlough scheme is good because obviously people get an income, but like, where are they getting their money from? Actually, where are they even getting it from?
Taxpayers, probably.
That is true.
But that can only take us so far.
I know. Well, that's the thing because because that's taken from the taxpayers' money. Well, I know the royal family are like lazy and all that, but they get by with taxpayers' money, which just drives me insane. But what's the stuff that we use taxpayers' money for? We're going to be spending out so much money on this furlough scheme.
And the money could run out. What if the money runs out? What happens then?
I don't think it will. But
if they're only,
I'm sure there's a lot of taxpayers' money.
But like I've read that they're struggling, aren't they? They're going to struggle to afford this because I think they underestimated again how much this would cost them. Because so many people have,
especially extended to October now. That's a lot longer than what was planned at the start. Yes.
Yeah, and so many people have taken advantage of this. Not taken advantage in like a rude way, but just just to help them survive and stuff. Taking advantage of the furlough scheme. Even I hate to bring on to football, but even football clubs, Tottenham, Liverpool, Newcastle, they before the public backlash, they decided to use the furlough scheme. Those clubs are worth millions.
Yeah.
So.
I did. I mean, when you've got like a business that's got like any business has got loads of employees. I mean, like when they if they were expect to pay all their employees like money like all the time without bringing any in. I can understand that because they're not like massive companies. But when you've got the massive companies like Liverpool, Newcastle, and Tottenham, why are they furloughing them? They're not going to struggle, really, are they? They need to pay their staff because they're not going to be struggling to pay them. They're not going to struggle to provide money for them like smaller businesses would.
No, and you know, football clubs are generally very rich, especially the Premier League clubs. I can understand if a League Two club like Macclesfield or something is taking advantage of the scheme, but there's got to be a limit to what you can take advantage of.
Yeah, I can definitely understand with like smaller clubs, but going on to tennis now. For example, like on the tennis tour, obviously like the top players aren't going to struggle because they've already got loads of money from like prize money, sponsors, that sort of thing. Whereas you've got players that like outside the top 1,000 rankings, for example, like on the smaller circuits of the tennis tour, they literally they spend all their money on traveling. They've got no income. They're going to really struggle. So that's why they've obviously set up some sort of fund, the player fund on the tour. But I think obviously the richer people are, I think they're probably going to get affected a lot less, whereas people that aren't paid as much are going to get affected quite badly.
Going back to the tennis argument, well, not argument, just the point you made, that obviously comparing that to, I'm not sure, you probably know more than me, how much tennis players earn. Do you know?
Well, so see, like on the biggest tournaments like Wimbledon, all the 4 Grand Slams, you earn 2 to 3 million if you win the tournament. But if you like every round you win, you win about 40,000 in the first round, then like 60,000, then 80,000, 100,000, and just goes up. But I just for the players that because obviously the general kind of winners of these big tournaments are the general top 3. So they're going to be okay. But it's good to see that they recognise the struggle and the hardship that the lower ranked players are going to suffer by setting up this fund. So what do you think the world will look like after this pandemic, and what do you think like the effects will be on? Obviously, like some countries will recover better than others. Like for example, Africa, they're probably going to struggle quite badly because they're not exactly the most developed continent in the world. But how do you think it's going to affect people generally?
Well, it'll affect countries badly because of the economic impacts, obviously. But if you move it to a smaller scale, us, me and you, it probably won't affect us much because we don't work a 9-to-5 job. But like to the people that do, I'm worried because people's mental health is a big issue nowadays, and if stuff like this happens where they lose their job or they lose their income or they lose their house, could be that extreme.
It's just constant worrying. Like, where's the money coming from? Where's the next job? And that is so bad for your mental health, regardless of whether you've got problems with that or not. It is going to affect you.
I mean, job availability. I think that'll be. Jobs I think will be, gone. Well, not all jobs, but most, some businesses.
Yeah,
well,
I know America's. 33 million Americans have gone unemployed.
That's ridiculous. 33 million.
That's about 1/10 of the population. No, 1/10 of the population
in just a month,
or however long it's been. But I think it's gonna the people that don't own businesses. I think they're probably. But people that own businesses will probably be okay, depending on the size of their business and all that. But people that maybe have jobs that require people that work in like supermarkets, I think they'll be okay because they need to be open. But like restaurants, I think people will lose their jobs there. Maybe if they're part time, they won't be kept on. I think a lot of people will lose their jobs. That's for sure.
Yeah, and back to the business's point. Some businesses, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, they're not going to struggle.
But Amazon's worth billions, isn't it? So.
But it's Amazon that are putting their workers on furlough.
I was very angry when I heard that.
I mean, it's just Jeff
Bezos is is the richest man in the world. So what's he doing that for?
Even Sport Direct. Mike Ashley, the former owner of Newcastle, or current owner as we speak. He put his staff on furlough as well. Ridiculous. The amount of money he earns, and Jeff Bezos as well.
I don't think many people like Mike Ashley. Just a small understatement there. But Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world. he's worth over 100 billion, way over 100 billion. So why is he putting his staff on furlough scheme? It's just ridiculous. So I hope you enjoyed our discussion on the coronavirus pandemic. Leave any comments you like, but also leave some suggestions for what you'd like us to talk about in the next upcoming videos. Of course, we have like our own set topics, but keep the ideas flowing, and we'll see you soon.